Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. My name is Becca Dukes. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Let's go ahead and open up that waiting room and let people in, as yes, we are a live Zoom with a live audience. And you are welcome to join us Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific time. That is 1 to 2 Mountain, 2 to 3 Central, and 3 to 4 Eastern. And if you are somewhere other than those time zones, you know, devices like Siri and Alexa and Google and Bixby are fantastic. And just say, hey, what time zone is, or what time is it in my time zone when it is 12 o'clock Pacific time? And it will tell you. Surprised mine's not going off right now. But welcome. This program is being sponsored by dailywithdoc.com, where we are a resource for an amazing community of certified holistic health coaches, health advocates, health professionals that have found the benefits of using lifestyle, diet, and nutrition to help their communities. And today is Pharmacist Fridays here on Daily with Doc. And I am super excited as we have one of my favorite pharmacists in the whole wide world. And I think he doesn't want to admit this, but I think he's one of the smartest pharmacists because he is one that really looks at the body, how the body responds to nutrition or the lack of nutrition, and then chemicals and how all of it either works for us or doesn't. But he is one of my absolute favorites, and I am super excited to have him on with us again as we're going to be doing questions and answers with Pharmacist Ben. Hello, Pharmacist Ben. How are you this marvelous?
Hey, well, hello there, Rebecca. I'm going to find you here. There you are. Hi there, Rebecca. Yeah, I always do feel a little uncomfortable with the smart term, because I know the stupid things I say and the stupid things I do. I have to live with myself, so I appreciate you saying that. Don't misunderstand me. I don't take it for granted. I totally appreciate it.
We're all humans.
Yeah.
And we learn.
I seem to be
humans.
Yeah, but I seem to personally, because I know me, it's very hard for me to accept these compliments because I know me. But in any case, that is neither here nor there, because really, I just love the human body. I'm just fascinated with it. I find it to be the most incredibly interesting, intricate, complex, dynamic, responsive, intelligent system in the entire universe. I can't think of anything more, and that is exemplified not by the individual unit of life in the body, which is the cell. I've been studying cells for 40 plus years, and really the most important aspect of being what you're calling being smart is really curiosity and interest. And curiosity and interest are really love. When you love, and I think I might have said this before, when you love somebody, you're really curious and you're interested in them. You love your kids. You really want to know about them. You want to know what they're thinking, what makes them tick, what their day was like. Your husband, your spouse, your girlfriend, boyfriend, even your pet. When you love your pet, aren't you reading cat books and cat magazines and cat videos and dog magazines? Curiosity and interest it's almost like a synonym, but it's certainly the most aspect, if not synonymous. It's the most important aspect of love. And I just absolutely love the life force, the cell, biology, and the body, And so I read about it all the time. I'm fascinated with it. If you saw my library, you would see hundreds, if not thousands, of books about biology and chemistry and biochemistry. And I've got tens of thousands of different articles that I've read. And it's just my passion and my life. And it's not that I'm smart. I'm just interested and I'm curious. Yes?
So you have the degrees,
I have the
but
degree, one
with
silly little pharmacy degree that teaches me how to. Would you like that generic, sir, or would you like that brand name? Would you like me to ring up your toilet paper too? You know, that's what that degree got me to do. But I'm being a little facetious because it did teach me about biochemistry and medicinal chemistry. But go ahead.
oh, absolutely. But whenever we have this interest in something, we then become autodidactic.
Yes, I'm autodidactic. I love that word. Yes, I am autodidactic. And I'm also like Dr. Wallach, except in maybe in a different way and not as in depth. I'm a polymath in the sense that I like history and archaeology and anthropology and sociology and biochemistry and philosophy and mind power and all the different ways that many of the different ways that show up on as places where we interact with life. And that's what really makes Doc so fascinating. And if you read his books, for those of you who read his books, you know what I'm talking about. My favorite book by Doc is Epigenetics because he really, really dives into the history of medicine and talks about archaeology and anthropology and sociology and nutrition and brings all of these ideas together. And that's really what drew me to Doc. And that's why I consider Doc to be one of my heroes because of that. And I want to emulate that. And I do have all of these interests that range from sports to politics to philosophy to medicine to biology. And I think that's what makes life interesting. You know, that's what makes life this fascinating journey that sometimes we forget that we're on for a mere 80 to 100, maybe 120 years if we're lucky. And we sometimes forget that and we're focused on our problems when really we've been given this wonderful, wonderful gift of a ticket to the great adventure of life. And that's what this thing is. And I know we focus on disease, and when you're sick, it's hard to remember that, or when your loved one is sick, it's hard to remember that. But at the end of the day, this is a terminal experience. It ends. One of my favorite t-shirts I ever saw was "Love fiercely because this all ends." I loved hearing that, and that really struck a chord with me. Anyway, thank you so much for the compliment. I really appreciate it, and I don't mean to marginalize it or take it for granted, even though I feel a little bit uncomfortable. I'll take it on. So thank you for that. And I do like doing questions and answers. I think that's really important. I have something real quick that I want to talk about, but then we'll talk about questions and answers. You know, the most important aspect of health and nutrition, all the things we talk about here, is mindset. It's our mindset. We have to have a mindset that says that we're capable of taking care of our own health business. We have a tendency, and present company probably excluded on this call, we have a tendency to think the doctor will fix me. I can do whatever I want with my life, and there's going to be a medicine or a surgical procedure or a medical protocol that I can use. We have this idea that I don't know what's wrong with me, but the doctor knows because he's a doctor. And even, you know, it sounds almost comical sometimes, the kind of deification we place on the representatives of the medical model. It sounds, we make jokes about it, you know, medical deities, MDs are medical deities and all that stuff. But really, that's kind of our culture. We give the doctor an outsized role, not only in health, but in terms of understanding of the human body and intelligence. And we're always shocked when they say, I don't know how that happens. Maybe it's a virus, maybe it's your genetics. And we laugh about it. But really, that is our fault. That's on us because we don't take, in the present company excluded again, people on this call have gone out of their way to participate in their own health, their health or their family's health. So present company excluded, but our neighbors and people we know, and sometimes even us, have gone out, have this mindset that it doesn't really matter what I do. I'm just going to get a pill, or I'm going to have a surgical procedure, or the doctor will somehow fix me. And when they don't, we're shocked. Well, the fact of the matter is medicine is extremely uncertain. It is an art way more than it's a science. In fact, arguably, it's not even a science. Arguably, what we call medicine, where you go in this model, which we've accepted as the standard way healing is done. You go to the doctor, he takes some tests, he gives you a diagnosis. Based on that, you get a pill. This whole idea of how medicine works, it's a complete failure in terms of being a scientific endeavor. What it is, it's an art, or at best, it's an art. At worst, it's guesswork. And I experienced this firsthand when I worked in psychiatric hospitals as a psychiatric pharmacist, which I was when I first graduated pharmacy school. And I used to go into the meetings where they would talk about each individual patient, and I would consult with the doctors, and they would talk to me about what medications the psychiatric patients had to be on, and they had no idea what they were doing. And I had no idea what I was doing. We just were just throwing this medicine and that medicine, and lowering this dose and raising that dose, and changing the way the doses were taken just to try different things. We didn't know, and nobody knows, because the way the body interacts with chemicals is a black box. There's no real cut and dry way, and that's why they have to use statistics and algorithms and studies and focus groups, because nobody really knows how a certain medicine is going to interact with the body at any given time. So if we assess that it works a certain way on Monday, that doesn't mean it's going to work that way on Tuesday. If it works that way in January, that doesn't mean it's going to work that way in February. If it worked that way for 5 years, it doesn't mean it's going to work that way the next year. It's just a big mystery. On the other hand, how the body interacts with nutrition, how the body interacts with good living, with quality life, including exercise and breathing and meditation and sleep, in addition to food and nutrition, that's tried and true. We understand that if you eat a certain way, you're going to have a certain result, for better or for worse. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. There was an article that came out, not a study, an article that came out in the news that talked about what they call, I don't know if you've heard of this, Rebecca, SGLT2s. Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't.
SGLT2s. This is a class of prescription drugs that covers diabetes, protects against diabetes. Well, it turns out just an article just came out this morning. I think it came out yesterday, or I read it yesterday, about SGLT2 inhibitors linked to an increased risk in falls with people with diabetes. And it's even worse when you take these GLP-1 agonists that everybody's using to lose weight, Wegovy and Ozempic. You may have seen Jardiance and Farxiga, and these are the SGLT2 drugs. Point being, you cannot take a prescription drug and expect to be better off for it. There's no way that putting a prescription drug into your mouth and into your bloodstream is going to make your body better. What it'll do is it'll force your body to do certain biochemical functions, to jump through some biochemical hoops that you or your doctor considers to be important, but you're not going to be healthier for it. It can't happen. So when I read things like this, I say, duh, as Dr. Wallach would say, of course that's going to happen. You can't be better off by taking a prescription drug. But the portrayal, if you watch it on TV, you'll see that, oh my gosh, I'm taking this prescription, this Jardiance or this Farxiga, and now I'm bungee jumping, and now I'm forging across rivers, and I'm kayaking, and I'm climbing mountains, and I'm jumping on Ferris wheels in amusement parks with my happy family, and I've got big smiles on my face because I took my Farxiga. Or I had that Broadway musical. I haven't seen that lately, but they had the Broadway musical for, I forgot the name of the drug. Maybe it's Jardiance. I take that Jardiance, I sing and I dance, and this is the mindset that is being foisted upon us. This is the kind of imagery, the kind of memes, the kind of ideas that we are being saturated in, that we're being immersed in. And I'm telling you, as a pharmacist, as a chemist, as a healthcare professional who's been doing this for 4 decades plus, don't buy it. Don't buy into it. It's a lie. It's not fair. The fact is, these biologics that you see advertised, most of the commercials now that you see advertised are drugs called biologics. And these biologics are drugs that they call them biologics. It makes it sound like they're natural or they're biologically friendly somehow. They're not. What they do is they use recombinant DNA, which is genetic modification, genetic techniques, where they create these molecules that shoot down, that like an antibody works. They shoot down specific molecules that are associated with inflammation. That's how they work. And they are ungodly expensive. They cost you thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars a month, and they cost a penny to make or 2 cents to make. Can you imagine what the profits are if you do the math? You multiply 12 months times 50 million people or 30 million people or however many millions of people who are on these drugs. you can see the kind of numbers we're talking about. So of course it's in their interest to do whatever it takes to get people to buy them and to get doctors to recommend them. The fact is, diabetes is a lifestyle issue. It's the #1 cause of death if you factor in its relationship to heart disease, its relationship to cancer, its relationship to pretty much everything, because it's the second point on the triangle of disease. You can think of it as the #1 cause of death and misery in this country, and it is an eating disease. It's an eating disorder. And it's the only reason we have it is because our brains override our intelligence. Our brains, our reptilian brains, our automatic brains, our autonomic brains, the part of our brains that operates automatically, overrides our ability to make good decisions. And because it overrides that, and because it takes more work to make a good decision to activate the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that makes decisions, than it does to go on automatic, we suffer. And there's no drug that can take it that can counteract that. But we can counteract that by activating our prefrontal cortex and making better decisions. First of which is to get on a good nutritional supplement program, which is what Doc's been talking about. Make better food choices, get better sleep. One of the best things you could do if you have metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance syndrome, whatever you want to call it, is build muscle mass. Muscle is the most important system in the body. The muscular system is the most important system in the body, next to the pancreas, for helping your body become more insulin sensitive. And so as we age, starting really young in our 30s, we lose muscle mass. So if you're not exercising and you're past 40 or 50 or 60, guaranteed you don't have the same muscle mass than you had when you were younger. It's much harder for you to control your insulin, to sensitize your insulin. And on top of that, if you're bombarding your body with a standard American diet, it's inevitable that you're going to have blood sugar problems, which means it's inevitable that you're going to have all of the, as we say in the biochemistry business, sequelae. The following, sequelae is a sequel. It's the following symptoms after the initial symptoms. It's inevitable you are going to have sequelae, which include inflammatory diseases of all kinds. And as we know, inflammatory issues underlie all health challenges. Why? So you say logically, just logically, forget guilt and forget ragging or nagging or hectoring somebody about the way they eat. Just forget all that. Just logically, you can see how important our choices are when it comes to our health. And you can also see how insidious the forces are that don't tell you about the impact of the French fries and the hamburger buns and the Kentucky Fried Chicken and the burritos and all the things that we're induced or compelled or suckered into ingesting, because somehow or another we're either told that they're good for us, or they're told they'll make us happy, or just by sheer force, by repetition of messages. And so we have control, folks. This is mindset. We have to first and foremost have the mindset that we are going to be our own health authorities. And we're going to take this ball back into our own court. We're going to take the bull by the horns, and we're going to do this ourselves. We can all do this. You can start today. You can start to sensitize your insulin today. You can start to lower your blood sugar today. And when you sensitize your insulin and lower your blood sugar, as Rebecca knows from her book, for the book she wrote, Metabolic Syndrome, everything else, all health measures, all health metrics will improve. All of them. Once you sensitize your insulin and lower your blood sugar. Now, there is the first point in the triangle of disease that you want to address too, but it begins with metabolic syndrome, blood sugar issues, insulin sensitivity, and it's as simple as getting on the healthy blood sugar pack, building more muscle, drinking more water, calorie restriction, ketogenic diet. You don't need a doctor. You don't need the medical model. You don't need a prescription drug. You don't need me. I'm a pharmacist. You don't need pharmacy. You don't need medicine. This is all lifestyle second and mindset first. Decide and then live your life a certain way. And with that, we will take questions.
All right. So the first question, Ben, has to do with diabetes. And this individual, he is on insulin, and his numbers spike to 350 and then go down to the 50 to 60 range within 30 minutes of without taking insulin. He also has
Wait a minute,
arthritis.
his blood sugar goes up. You said his insulin. You mean his blood sugar?
His
Yes.
blood sugar. Sorry,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, got
His
it.
blood sugar spikes. His
Okay.
sugar levels spike.
After what?
To
After what do they
350
spike?
plus.
What do you mean they spike? After what? They just automatically spike, or he doesn't
He doesn't
feel?
say specifically.
I assume it means
He
after he
does.
eats.
That's what I would assume.
Okay.
And then he says they drop to the 50-60 range within 30 minutes or less without taking insulin. So if he's not taking the insulin,
Well, his insulin is pretty. If it pulls the blood sugar down that quickly, then he's got some serious. That's pre-diabetes, is when your insulin is super sensitive like that.
okay.
Before you go into insulin resistance syndrome, metabolic syndrome, you go into a state where your insulin starts going up. What happens is you eat sugar, your insulin goes up. But if you keep eating sugar, eventually your body stops listening to insulin, so you need more insulin. And then you keep eating sugar, eventually your body stops listening, your cells stop listening to that much insulin, you need more, you need more, and you need more until you reach a cutoff point. At that cutoff point, your body just stops listening to insulin. And so he's probably in that pre-diabetes state. That's what they call pre-diabetes and then diabetes. So he's probably
So
pre-diabetes.
would he still be pre-diabetes because they do have him on insulin?
He's on insulin, or did you say?
He's on insulin.
Okay, so then if he's on insulin, so I'm not exactly understanding. Are you saying that when he takes his insulin, his blood sugar drops?
He says he has to monitor it closely because my sugar levels will spike 350 plus and drop in the 50 to 60 range within 30 minutes or less when he doesn't take insulin.
So why is he taking insulin? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Why is he taking insulin?
That's a great question.
I'm not understanding that question. If he's on the call, have him put him up.
He's not. This is an email that came into us at questions@dailyWithDoc.com.
Ask him to call us, because I'm not really understanding that question.
Okay, so
sounds like his insulin is pretty effective. I don't know why he'd be on insulin, but if he's on insulin, that would mean that that he has insulin resistance, or his body's not listening to insulin. He needs more insulin, but none of that makes sense. I'd have to ask him. I'd want to talk to him. Ordinarily, just so everybody knows, pre-diabetes, as the name implies, precedes the diagnosis of diabetes. So pre-diabetes is when your body is handling the blood sugar, but it's taking more and more insulin to do it, until eventually you reach a point where even that insulin doesn't do it. Your cells just say, forget it. I'm not listening anymore. And then you got to take insulin, and you got to really crank out the insulin. And that's diabetes. Now, you can get off of insulin. You can restore your body back to insulin sensitivity. It happens all the time. And that's very easy to do. And by the way, insulin has its own health problems associated with it. Insulin is associated with growth. It makes things happen. When insulin goes up, the body feels like there's growth that needs to occur. Because for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, when insulin went up, we were getting nourished. We were getting food, obviously. And we were getting food to the body from an evolutionary standpoint. That meant it was summertime. There's no food in the wintertime. There's food in the summertime. The summertime, from an evolutionary standpoint, is when we built things. We went out and killed the woolly mammoth and hunted and fished and did all the things our Paleolithic ancestors had to do to survive. That was summertime. Wintertime, they were dormant. There wasn't a lot of nourishment around. So the body sees nourishment signals like insulin, and by the way, like cholesterol, as signs to grow. And this is why both insulin and cholesterol are associated with disease. Elevated insulin and elevated cholesterol are associated with diseases because they're revving things up. They're making things happen. You're going to hear about something called mTOR. Did you talk about mTOR with Dr. Wall? You're going to start hearing about this more because this is a part of the same system. These are nourishing sensing chemicals. In the case of mTOR, it's a complex. These are nourishing sensing molecules and chemicals in the body, nourishment sensing, that tie in nourishment with growth. Now, growth doesn't mean I'm getting big and strong. Growth means cell division. Cell division is good if you have all the resources and you need the cell division. It's bad if you don't have all the resources and you don't need the cell division. And this is where inflammation comes from. One of the ways that we get inflamed is by things getting clogged up, by machinery moving, the gears are moving, and waste products are being produced when we don't need it. This is why cholesterol is the problem. This is why cholesterol is thought to be the problem. It's not really the problem. It's the reason why the cholesterol goes up, which is sugar. Sugar is the main impetus for all of this. Sugar is the reason why insulin goes up. Sugar is the reason why cholesterol goes up. Sugar is the reason, as you'll hear in the coming years, why mTOR is such a problem. We're tricking the body into thinking it's supposed to be growing and moving, and we're not. We're hacking into it. We're not really out there hunting a woolly mammoth. We're sitting on our butts watching TV, but the signals are being sent to the body that think, hey, you're out there hunting, you're out there foraging, you're out there doing work when we're doing nothing of the kind. That's the real problem. So as far as this gentleman goes, we'll talk, if you can have him, elaborate a little bit more.
We'll definitely get more information. And that's one thing that I love about you, Ben, is, there's so many different aspects. There's not a one size fits all when it comes to an approach to helping somebody get through what they are experiencing. So I greatly appreciate that. Okay. And again, folks, just as a reminder, this program is a resource for an amazing community. So if you were referred to this program by somebody specific, get back with them. They cared enough about you, care enough to say thank you. And if you have additional questions, they are your #1 point of contact. If there's no one to thank and you would like to speak with a certified holistic health coach, you may do so by calling us at 855-949-3377. Again, that's for people that are not working with somebody already, 855-949-3377. So Ben, the next question is coming from Sean. He says, I have some mystery severe inflammation autoimmune problem that no one can seem to diagnose, presents rheumatoid arthritis, symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis. The tests for rheumatoid are continually negative, along with every other test, but there's nothing in life that doesn't hurt. I can barely move.
Okay.
I've lost strength, mobility. My feet hurt. This is a man. I feel like I'm walking on gravel. My hands and wrists are pretty much useless. He's 46, 6'3", 215 pounds. And when he was 30, he used mainstream medical treatment for, where is it? Leukemia.
He had leukemia. He had leukemia. He now has tinnitus. His bones, they're all bruised all the time. Is AJ on the call here?
AJ is on the call, yes.
AJ, what's MBFA disease, AJ? Sounds like MBFA disease to me.
Sounds like his body is falling apart disease.
Right. And then what's the worst disease that smart people suffer from, AJ?
Overthinkitis.
Okay, we got it. Overthinkitis. This guy's overthinking. Is he on the call?
No, he's not. This is another question coming in.
His body's falling apart. So you say, why is his body falling apart? And again, when you talked about, the doctors can't find it, it's a mystery. It's overthinkitis. It's not a mystery. Something is getting into his body that his body is responding to. This is everything, folks. Something is getting into the body that the body is responding to. Stimulus response. Something's getting in, and when we say into the body, got to clarify that a little bit, we mean into the blood. Whenever you hear something got into the body and it caused something, we mean into the blood. Now you could get a mosquito, you get an insect bite or something like that, or you get impaled, I suppose, or splinter, things could get into the tissue that way. But for them, that's not really where chronic metabolic or biochemical issues come from. They come from things getting in the blood. So something's getting into his blood. You don't have to be a doctor to understand this. You don't have to have a medical degree or a pharmacy degree or anything to understand this. Something is getting into his blood. Now we've just immediately narrowed everything down. We still have to determine what's getting into the blood, but we've immediately narrowed everything down without doctors, immediately, just in that one logical premise that there's a stimulus response, there's a response happening to a stimulus. The stimulus means something's gotten into the body, which means into the blood, immediately. Okay, so now we've narrowed that down. Still got to figure out what's getting into the blood, but now we got to narrow it down. Okay, I'm assuming he's not an IV drug user, but if he was, that would be a potential perpetrator. Now, this is a crime. We're doing forensics here, and we're trying to find the perpetrator. So the potential perpetrator, if you're injecting things through the skin, could definitely be whatever he's injecting. That could definitely be. But we're going to assume that's not it. So where's the other source of things getting into the blood? Where? Food.
Well,
It has to be. Not
he
because.
he has digest issues as
Okay,
well.
let me quote Dr. Wallach again. Duh. Yeah. Yes. Of course. Of course. I don't say this because I'm Mr. Food Guy. I am not Mr. Food Guy, and I don't ever want to think of you to think of me as Mr. Food Guy. That's an insult to be Mr. Food Guy. I don't want people ragging on me about food either. Nobody does. But this is a point of power. This is a leverage point, and it's not medicine or medical. It's not even scientific. It's logical. You have a system that delivers everything to every single tissue in every single cell in the body. It delivers food. It delivers nutrients. It delivers oxygen. It delivers electrical energy. And it detoxifies. In Leviticus, the life of the flesh is in the blood. The life is carried in the blood. So you got to clean the blood. The blood becomes dirty through injections or through food. For most of us, it's through food. This is why, by the way, injections you got to be so careful with. And anytime a healthcare professional says to you, just get this injection and it'll save you from catching a cold or getting a virus, you want to be very careful. And this is why I had a problem with what happened a few years ago. From day one, I said, this is going to be an issue. And of course it was. So you can't inject things through the skin without expecting the blood to have some kind of reaction. For the most part, that's not that's not an issue for most of us, but food is. And now he says he has digestive issues. I don't need him to tell me that. I could have told him that. And you know what? I do calls all the time and people say, oh, I don't have any digestive problems. Guess what? Bull, you know what? And it's not because they're lying. It's because they don't know. They don't recognize them. But you can just, if you understand this logic of what I just said, you know they're going to be there. So I could have told them they're going to be there. So forget the doctors, forget everybody else. At this point, it may have tumbled out of control. And so once the food thing is getting out of control, then you deal with a whole bunch of stuff. Then you have what's called dysbiosis, which is changes in the gut bacteria population. And then you're going to have bacterial toxins that get into the blood. There are these particles that are called LPSs, lipopolysaccharides, that are incredibly inflammatory and immune activating. They're pieces of bacteria. They call them endotoxins. Endo means inside, toxins means toxins. Endotoxins, lipopolysaccharides, these LPSs. You get immune particles, histamine. There's a condition called mast cell activation syndrome. Have you guys talked about MCAS? If you haven't, we should start talking about it. MCS stands for mast cell activation syndrome. Mast cells are immune cells that are found in the blood and throughout the body, but especially in the intestine. And you makes sense, really, when you think about it. The intestine is that's your headquarters for immunity. So these mast cells, they contain inflammatory molecules. Inflammation to the body is a protective mechanism. It's its friend. So these mast cells, they become activated. They release their molecules. They get into the bloodstream, and you will get misery from head to toe. You'll have these immune activating molecules in the bloodstream, which means head to toe, because the blood goes head to toe. These people with MCS can't even take a shower sometimes because the warm water will make them, will inflame their skin. They can't even go out in the sun. You ever hear people allergic to the sun? The sun will, yes, that's the sun's fault. It's the immune system. It's called mast cell activation syndrome. Sometimes with mast cell activation syndrome, you can write your name in your skin, called dermographia. You can actually sign your name and your skin will inflame with your fingernails, where you signed your name with your fingernails. That's how inflamed the body is. Sounds like this guy may be dealing with one of those conditions. Now, estrogen can be involved, and when women, this happens mostly in women, but it happens in men too, but mostly women, and that's called fibromyalgia. And it sounds like this is kind of, that's a diagnosis, that's a name, but this guy could be dealing with some aspect of that, and it may involve estrogen, it may involve female hormone. Men make female hormone too. So I could give you all the wonderful ways biochemistry is involved in this, and it's fascinating as heck. It's super fascinating. I love it, but it's not necessary. Work on the intestine. And for this gentleman, and for anybody who's dealing with something like this, where you have all of these multiple symptoms, you should know a couple things. Number one, the sicker you are, the faster you can turn it around. He can turn this around in a couple days. That's number one. It should be very inspiring. He's listening. This should be so inspiring for you. If anybody's listening out there who has a similar health challenge, this should be the most inspiring message you hear, because you can turn this around quickly. How do you do it? First and foremost, you stop the stream of toxicity from entering into the bloodstream, which means you fast. Stop eating. Oh, I can't fast. I'm going to have a problem. Yes, you can. You can, the first few hours, 8 hours or so, 6 to 8 hours is the hardest. After that, you're not even going to feel like eating, because you're going to know as soon as you eat, you're going to feel miserable again. You'll intuitively know that. So fast. That's first of all. Second of all, when you start eating again, write things down. Do a food diary. Write everything down so you can see the link between what you're doing and how your body's responding. And for, excuse me, for people who are in longevity, who are distributing products and selling products, this is the first thing you want to tell your clients, your patients, because this gives them power. They will begin to see that this is not a mystery. And that is incredibly empowering, to see that it's no longer a mystery. Can you imagine? I can only imagine. I haven't had this, but I can only imagine what it must feel like to have these illnesses and these challenges, and nobody knows, and you don't know, and you have no idea. It's a mystery. That is the most frustrating, scary problem associated with these health issues, is that you don't know. It's like your body's falling apart, and you're here, and you're just watching it deteriorate, and you have no control. But once you see the relationship between your foods and what you're doing to your body and the symptoms, it's incredibly inspiring, because now you have some control. Now you have some power. You don't need a doctor to help you. You can do it yourself. It's a food diary. And then you eliminate your foods, of course. Do all the wonderful longevity products that support digestive health, including the Daily Digest, the Nightly Essence, the Ultimate Enzymes. You've got to be a little bit careful with the microbiome, and I don't want to digress too much, but if you have a condition called SIBO, the microbiome you got to be a little bit careful with, but you should try to incorporate that as best as you can. One of the best ways to protect yourself against leaky gut is with the Fucoid Z. And I absolutely love the Fucoid Z because it's got all these wonderful benefits, these diverse health benefits, from the improving immunity, improving blood flow, supporting the healing of connective tissue and wrinkle reduction and bone health. And it will also support the integrity of the intestinal mucosa, the intestinal lining, and that can help you with leaky gut. So use all the wonderful digestive support supplements and throw in the Fucoid Z. If you want to do other things, glucogel capsules strengthen the connective tissue. Healthy bone and joint pack in general will strengthen the connective tissue in the intestinal lining. Collagen peptides, also TMR shake, not the vegan, but the TMR whey protein shake. Whey protein can be helpful for folks who have a dysbiosis, although you do have to be a little bit careful because some people will have a problem with whey. And these are all strategies. This gentleman can be helped in 1 day. In 1 day, he can feel better. And of course, everything starts with the Healthy Start Pack, so you want to make sure you're getting your Mighty 90 essential nutrient basics. I'd love to talk to this guy if he's around, or if you can connect me with him. We'll make him
I'm definitely going to be reaching out to him. He did include his phone numbers because, you know, a lot of the things that he's experiencing, these mystery diseases and everything is compounding and they can't do anything to fix it. I was there.
You had the same thing.
Yes.
And look how beautiful you look now.
Except for the leukemia. I didn't have leukemia, which I praise God for that. But yeah, so I'm living testament that it does not take very long to start feeling better and to no longer hurt all over and be able to start enjoying life and not have to know where the bathroom is every second of the day.
I can only imagine. There's some people can't even leave the house.
Yeah,
and
people can't leave the house.
I was reading about a famous football player had that. I was thinking, how could somebody not help this guy? He's got all the resources in the world, this famous football player. He had to take a year off from the NFL because he had Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, one or the other. Same idea. And even our opinion leaders, our celebrities, people who are, you think would have all the resources possible, and all they got to do is get on a phone call like this, and they can change their life.
Absolutely. They're just going to the wrong people, Pharmacist Ben. Well, hey, we have lots of hands up, so let's go ahead and go to the first hand that is up. LOP, can you unmute yourself, please?
LOP.
Hi.
Hello
Hi,
there.
what question do you have today for Pharmacist Ben?
Yes, I'm actually asking a question for a friend, and she has, I think, I don't know how to pronounce it, but sialadenitis, a salivary stone lodged in one of her salivary glands.
Okay.
And she says it's not in a duct, and so therefore it cannot be flushed out. And she says it also cannot be surgically removed because it's next to a nerve.
And it's a salivary stone, in other
Yeah.
words.
Yes.
All right. So stones are a very interesting phenomenon. And I'm going to ask Rebecca, because I can only see you, Rebecca. I can't see anybody else. But I'm going to ask you. Gallstones, kidney stones, salivary stones, bladder stones. What the heck is a stone? Why would a stone happen?
Well,
What's the
one,
mechanism of action of a stone?
the body's trying to protect itself.
No, not quite.
No,
I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, yeah, it's a protective thing, but what is the why would a stone form?
nutritional deficiencies that the body
Oh,
can't
those are always
absorb.
going to
What
be
is going
involved.
on?
Those are always going to be involved. Here's the thing. We talk about dirty blood, right? All disease is cell disease, and all cell disease is dirty blood. When I say dirty blood, I like that term because it's just graphic. But what it really means is that the blood is super saturated and coagulating. So what does super saturated mean? If you take a teaspoon of salt and you put it in water, it goes into the water, right? And then it disappears. You don't see it anymore. Of course, it's not disappearing. You just don't see it anymore. It's in the water, right? Then you take a second teaspoon of salt, and you put it in again, and it disappears. Again, it's in the water. You just don't see it, right? Are you with me? Then you take a third teaspoon of salt, and it goes in the water. Boom, it disappears. Eventually, with the fourth or the fifth or the sixth teaspoon of salt, the water will have no more room for the salt. And at that point, we say the water is saturated, right? But if you once it's saturated, there's no more room for the salt, and then you put another teaspoon of salt in the water, everything's going to come out. We now say the water is super saturated. In other words, not only is there no more room for salt to disperse in the water, to dissolve in the water, but now everything's coming out. That's called supersaturation. Does that make sense? You follow that?
I'm following.
Stone formation is the result of supersaturation. And it involves a lot of factors. Remember, the blood it's very misleading when we think of the blood, because when we see the blood, because it looks just some liquid that's floating around. It is not some liquid. It is a tissue that's packed with molecules, packed. We can't see it, but it's packed. In fact, the blood is somewhat solid. It's like a liquid solid. It's like gel-like. It's not like water. It doesn't splash around. It has a solidity to it. That's why, I don't want to be graphic or gross here, but when people, lose a lot of blood, like if they're murdered or something, lose a lot of blood, you can't, that's all everywhere. That goes there. There's no hiding it, because the blood is just a thick, solid, semi-solid substance that's packed with substances. And that semi-solid substance has to still flow, even though it's semi-solid. It has to still somehow maintain fluidity so it can travel. And in order for it to maintain its fluidity, there are so many criteria that have to be controlled. Number one, it has to have just the right amount of solids within it. If there's too much solids in it, it's not going to flow correctly. It has to have just the right acidity or pH level. If the pH level changes, it's not going to flow correctly. It has to have the right amount of heat. It has to have the right amount of fluidity. It has to have the right amount of biochemistry, of electricity, we'll say, electrical energy. It has to have a whole bunch of criteria that keep it fluidy, moving. When the pH level is off, when the solidity level and the amount of solids that's in the blood is off, when the temperature is off, when the electrical energy is off, when there's immune factors, when it's hypercoagulating, when there's all these factors are off, eventually the stuff that's in solution, it's not really solution, but it's in the liquid of the blood, is going to precipitate out. Just like that salt. the solid material in the blood will start to come out, just like when you have too much salt in the water and the salt comes out, and that's what a stone is. And it'll happen in the very tiny vessels. And that's why you get stones in the kidneys, because you got very tiny vessels in the kidneys. That's why you get stones in the gallbladder, because you got very tiny vessels in the gallbladder. So I get stones in the tear ducts. I don't know if you've ever seen or heard of tear duct stone, but those are god awful. All stones are god awful. Tear duct stones, or in this case, salivary duct stones. So the ducts are very, very tiny little tubules. And these tiny tubules, once they get the stones formed, you got to have serious procedures, especially in the eyes or in the mouth. And in this person's case, it's located next to nerves, so it's going to be very tricky. So there's a couple things you're going to want to do. First of all, that is a shot across the bow. That is a sign that the blood is way off. The composition of the blood, the parameters of the blood are off. And of course, that all starts off in the digestive system. Unless they've been injecting things, it all starts off in the digestive system. So this person's going to want to work on all the digestive things, and guaranteed there are other health challenges. LOP. Is this a friend of yours or customer, LOP?
This is a friend, yeah.
Okay. So do you know them well, or your acquaintance?
No, I really don't know this person well.
All the digestive stuff. Healthy Star Pack, all the digestive stuff. Luckily with stones, and I don't know about salivary stones, I know about gallstones, they can use sound waves to break up the stones. So you may want to explore that. I'm pretty sure they can do that for salivary stones too, although I haven't heard of that. Do you know what I'm talking about? They use sound to shoot at the stone to dissolve the stone. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I've heard of that. I've heard of it.
And that's the procedure that you'd want to use for her. But this should be regarded as a shot across the bow that the blood is off. And that always starts off with digestive health, because either she doesn't know it, or she hasn't associated these other health issues, like digestive health issues primarily. Probably she has female health. It's a woman, right?
Yes.
Probably she has female health issues as well, because that also involves the circulatory system. And those are two of the main places where circulatory issues will occur in women, are in the female hormone system, the reproductive system, as well as in the digestive system. And so those are places you want to work. If she's pre-diabetic, or she has diabetes issues, glycation of the blood, sugaring of the blood will also increase the coagulability, the thickness of the blood, the dirtiness of the blood, if you prefer, and that will be a problem. So that you want to work there. And I don't know how long you've been on doing these calls with us, LOP, but just so you know, and I don't want to bore you or repeat if you already know, it always starts off with digestion and the blood sugar system. And that's where you want to work. You say, last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago, we talked about glaucoma, right? And I did a talk with, Fred, Rebecca, on glaucoma.
Yep.
And I did my whole thing on the first 2 points of the triangle of disease. And at the end, somebody raised a question, says, well, I have glaucoma. What can I do? And my first thing I thought in my head is, I just told you what you could do. But then I realized that we don't make the connection. It's the eyes. What's that got to do with my blood sugar? What's that got to do with my digestive system? Likewise with this gal, it's my salivary gland. What's that got to do with my digestive system or my blood sugar? Do you see how it's all linked, LOP?
Yes.
See this dirty blood issue? So I don't know how old your friend is, but I can tell you, I can guarantee you that there's going to be a history of digestive issues, whether she recognizes them or not, and either pre-diabetes or full-blown diabetes, or some kind of dysglycemia, meaning blood sugar disturbances.
Yes. Ben, 2 questions. First question is, I know that this call is being recorded. Are the recordings available somewhere?
Yes, probably. They're on Rumble and YouTube, I think.
Yes, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook. We're on
Are people
Amazon.
on YouTube now? Are we on YouTube Live now?
We're on live with YouTube, and we
Hi.
have questions coming in from YouTube
Alright.
as well.
What is
Hey,
this YouTube station where I
You can
can
go to Critical Health News on YouTube, or
critical
just
health?
search for Daily with Doc and Becca. It'll come up as well.
Okay. My second question, Ben, is I've heard of fucoidan dissolving other types of stones like
No,
gall.
fucoidan is not going to dissolve stones. But what fucoidan will do, it will improve circulation.
Okay.
Fucoidan has electrical charges. It carries electricity with it. The blood is an electrical system, like every other system in the body, but the blood is extra electrical because it's moving and it has what are called colloidal particles in it. When a colloidal system, and I don't want to get into too much chemistry, but a colloidal system is a liquid system that has particles in it. And when a liquid system that has particles in it, especially particles that are charged, electrically charged, circulates or moves, it generates electrical energy. When the blood slows down, remember it's hypercoagulating, it's clotting, it's thick, it's sludgy, it's dirty, everything sort of slows down, the electrical energy slows down, and this causes the blood cells to kind of clump up, and it causes the blood to become more sludgy and sticky. What fucoidan does, because electrical charges and essential fatty acids do this as well, and you may have heard of heparin. You know, when you go into surgical procedure, they give you heparin. Heparin's the same thing, not the same thing, but has the same kind of structure as a fucoidan. It spreads everything out. And so by virtue of its ability to improve blood flow or blood movement, we'll say, it can have a anti-stone effect. Does that make sense? It's not going to dissolve the stone, though. Once the stone is there, it ain't dissolving. You can shoot the sound waves at it, that'll do it, but you're not going to dissolve the stone with fucoidan. You can prevent stone formation with fucoidan, but the stone is a rock. It's a stone. You're not going to dissolve it any more than if you had a stone in your hand and you put fucoidan on it, it's not going to dissolve the stone. Do you follow what I'm saying, ma'am?
Okay, so you're saying it can have it's not going to dissolve it.
No, it isn't going
but
to dissolve.
It can have a benefit.
100% going to have a benefit. 100%. Fucoidan and Fucoid Z is a tonic. I hesitate to use the word panacea because a panacea is like this miracle thing. It's not a panacea, but it's like a tonic because it's good for everything. Okay,
Right.
and it's good for everything because it's a fundamental building block molecule. It's called a polysaccharide. And polysaccharides are fundamental building block molecules that carry electrical charges. And they're basic fundamental molecules in the body. And fucoidan is one of those. And it will definitely have benefits for future, to prevent future stones, but it's not going to help you with the stones. Stone is there. Shoot sound waves at it if she can't have surgery.
Okay. But it's going to help with the digestive part.
It'll help with so many different things. I could, list them for an hour here. Blood sugar, digestive health, blood flow, wound healing, immune system strengthening, leaky gut protecting, anti-aging, anti-wrinkle, skin health. There's so many different things it's going to benefit because of its fundamental nature.
Got it.
Make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Hey, can we do? I want to know. Can I do a survey here with people if this is making sense to folks? Can we have is there a way to do that? Raise the hand. Is this making sense to people? The logic here. I want to see. Can you? I can't really see here. But
so for those of you, and AJ, maybe you can set up a survey out on YouTube. We can do the YouTube survey as well. For those of you who are here in the Zoom, you can do a chat and send in a chat saying, does this make sense? And you can say yes or no, or
just
I
yes
want
or no.
more.
Makes sense. I want to know if this is kind of makes sense because it's so important and it's so basic and nobody's telling us this. And this is these are powerful strategies for us to employ in our lives from the comfort of our own living rooms and kitchens and bathrooms and bedrooms. And, we could do this ourselves. I want to make sure this is making sense.
Absolutely.
For those of you in the audience, in reactions, you can give a thumbs up or rate or like.
It does make sense. We want to.
You could all do that. That'd be great. Thank you.
Well, I'm getting 100%. Yes, it makes sense. Yes, love it. Yes, indeed. Yes, it makes sense. Makes sense.
Okay.
Just yes.
Okay, so that's the overwhelming sentiment here.
Overwhelming.
That's so important. Okay, good. All right. I want this is foundational. And once you get this, you could be your own healthcare professional for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for your neighbors. You could do talks. You could build your business. Anybody can do this.
Yep. Anybody. So yes, it's making sense and very helpful. And Barbara says she loves the color of your shirt.
Oh, thanks.
So let's go over to Phyllis. Phyllis has a couple questions, and then Pharmacist Ben, if you have a hard stop, we only have 5 minutes.
Hard stop.
All right. Well, speaking of YouTube, you always generate a lot of questions on YouTube.
Okay.
So we have 2. Veronica's grandmother is 78. She has degenerative narrowing of the spinal canal. Her feet are numb. It's hard to walk.
Of course, it's terrible. It's terrible. So what is it that causes deep stenosis? That's called stenosis. You know, when
Yes.
you have things are clogged or closed up, you know, the spinal canal is like a tube, and the spinal cord, and it goes through the tube. And if the tube gets closes and presses against the nerve, you're going to have issues. So what is it that causes this problem? It happens in the vasculature as well. Cardiac stenosis and blood vessel stenosis and arterial stenosis and sclerosis and stenosis. These are all conditions where the tubes start to narrow. When the tubes start to narrow in the circulatory system, the blood doesn't flow. When the tubes narrow in the nervous system, you get pain and you get nerve problems. So what is the cause of this? Why do
Sounds like sludgy blood to me.
well, it's sludgy blood in the blood, but in the nerve, and there's always going to be an element of sludgy blood, but in the nerves, you've got rapid division of cells in the tube. So remember, the tube is made up of cells, like every other part of the body. It's made up of cells. So you got to think of a garden hose, albeit a very tiny garden hose. The garden hose is a tube, and the lining of the garden hose is made up of cells. When you have a stenotic condition or a narrowing of tubes, stenosis, what you have is cells inside the tube dividing very rapidly. Cells divide very rapidly under conditions of irritation as a protective mechanism or nutritional deficiencies. So when cells narrow, whether it's in the tubes of the blood vessels or the tubes of the nervous system, the spinal cord, what you're talking about is the cells inside the tube are dividing very, very rapidly. What causes the cells to divide very rapidly? Protection or nutritional deficiencies, likely a combination of both.
Is that like those stones you were just talking about?
Very similar, except this is cells. This isn't minerals. This is cells dividing.
Got it.
Cells divide under tight regulation. They're not supposed to just divide. They're supposed to be very controlled how they divide. When the chemistry of the body is off, particularly around insulin, which promotes division, or irritation, if there's some kind of irritating factors, or and this is what acne is, by the way. Acne is the same idea. Inside the follicle, the cells are dividing very rapidly. When the cells divide very rapidly, they clog pores. So this idea, we call it hyperproliferation. Hyper means too much, and proliferation means growing. Hyperproliferative conditions represent protection and represent nutritional deficiencies. So once they're there in the spinal cord, it's going to be difficult to make them go away. But what you can do is you can keep them from degrading, from proliferating, hyperproliferating further. And that means to assess where the problem is. And this is a rule of thumb in natural medicine and natural healing. Where you see the problem is not where the problem begins, with the exception of the digestive system. That oftentimes that's where the problem is, because you can feel it. You're putting things. Other than that, where you see the problem is not where the problem is any more than, as AJ, we talked about this yesterday, right? The fruit is not where the problem is, it's the root. The distinction between the root and the fruit. If you have a rotten apple, you ain't fixing it. Your job is to get to the root for tomorrow's rotten apple, right? You're not going to fix a rotten apple. Where the problem is not where the problem begins. The stenosis, the spinal stenosis, is not where the problem begins. The soil is where the problem begins. And the soil is going to be the triangle of disease always, because of the dirty blood. The reason the digestive system and the metabolic system, the blood sugar system, are so critical, because that's where the blood becomes dirty. So you got to get back to the bottom. Now, this is a 78-year-old woman. You're not going to change her complete, she's probably not going to want to stop doing everything she's been doing for 78 years, but you can do a little bit. Digestive health, work on it. I guarantee she's got digestive issues, and I don't want to hear, I don't have any digestive problems. Baloney, okay? My digestion's perfect. No, it's not. You can't have these conditions. I'm not trying to be mean or rude here. Yeah. You've got to work on the digestive system. You got to work on the blood sugar system. You got to protect against tomorrow's stenosis. I don't know of any. There is a process called chelation, which may help if there's mineral deposits, and there may be mineral deposits in there, and I don't know that if that's the case, but you might want to consider either chelation therapy. That's particularly helpful for the blood. I'm not sure it's going to be helpful for spinal stenosis. but it'll be helpful for the blood for people who are dealing with that. And there are also nutrients that can chelate. Vitamin C chelates, the ultimate selenium chelates, fucoidin, the fucoid Z I forgot to mention, that has chelation properties. Chelation is like a magnetic attraction to minerals and toxins that cleans out the blood. I don't know necessarily it's going to clean out the spine. What she can do is she can start working on mobility exercises, however, and that can improve neural conduction, and it can have some secondary benefits by improving any muscular deterioration or degeneration, which tends to occur as we get older. They call that sarcopenia. You may have heard that term. So she can start building muscle, and that's another thing she can do. She can start working out. And then she could do the first 2 points on the triangle of disease may help her if she's dealing with neuropathic conditions that are from inflammatory issues in addition to the stenosis. As far as the spine goes, I don't know. I can't say that these conditions are going to open up the spine, but they will prevent further degeneration. Okay?
All right. Next
All right.
question is from Erico on YouTube.
Last question here.
What do they put in PPIs that irreversibly bind protein pumps? It takes months to recover, he says.
They're not protein pumps. First of all, they're proton pumps.
Oh, proton, right. Sorry.
Proton pump. Okay. So PPIs stand for proton pump inhibitors. Pumps are little molecular systems that take things from the outside and put them in the inside, and take things from the inside and put them in the outside. Protons are a measurement of acid. A proton you can basically think of as a type of as a piece of acid. That's not exactly right, but protons are associated with acid, and by inhibiting the proton pump, you reduce acid production, and that's why proton pumps inhibitors are used for GERD. The problem with GERD is it's not a condition of too much acid. It's a condition of a loose sphincter that causes acid to splash up. So you're not making too much acid. Your sphincter is loose, and the acid that you're making is splashing up. However, if you shut down acid production, there's nothing to splash back up. The problem, of course, then is you're not absorbing your foods, and you can end up with bacterial issues in the intestine because acid is supposed to kill bacteria. So again, you're not going to get better with a drug, even though your symptoms may improve. The exact mechanism is poisoning of the pump. It's not like it's binding to the pump, it's poisoning the pump. It's a poison that's specific for the cells that are, and actually it's probably not even cells, it's probably just proteins that are responsible for this pumping action. And it's kind of cool. This pumping action is kind of like this. If you can imagine this, let me just say this real quick. The body is made up of machines. There are tiny little nano machines. And when I say nano, I mean they're billionths of a meter. Nano is nanometer. It's billionths of a meter. A meter is like maybe roughly a yard, a little less than a yard probably. And divide it by 1 billion times, and you get a nanostructure, or nano. You can imagine how small that is. And these little machines are that size. There's a really interesting book that a guy named Eric Drexler wrote back in the 90s, 80s or 90s, called Engines of Creation, where he talks about these molecular machines and how in the future we're going to be building these. A molecule is so small that in a bottle of water, you can fit 6 or 7 with septillion. A septillion is, you know what a septillion? Can you imagine? There's a billion, a trillion, a quadrillion,
like 7 zeros.
A sextillion, a septillion molecules of water in a glass or a bottle. That's how small a molecule is, and that's how small these machines are. Can you divide this by a septillion? You can't even imagine what a septillion is, right? And that's how big a molecule is, and there are machines in the body that are that big with gears and wheels and switches and all the things that are in machines. And that's what a pump is on a cell. And you can imagine, given their tiny nature, how easy it is to poison them, and that's what these drugs do. They poison this machinery, so the machinery can no longer work, and that inhibits the proton pump, which lowers the acid production inside the gastric cells that produce the acid, and that's how they work. And you know, as brilliant as it is in this evil genius kind of way, you can see how there's no way that you can not have an adverse reaction or a side effect, even if it's minor and you don't notice it, and most of them, thankfully are minor and you don't notice them, eventually something's going to give, something has to give way if you keep taking them and keep using them and keep interacting with them.
Thanks so much, Ben. I guess
Thank
we
you.
better let you
Thank
go.
you, everybody. And thank you,
Yes.
Rebecca and AJ and Ruth Ellen and Marilyn and Albert and anybody I forgot to say.
And everybody that is on here with us, and folks, a million has 9 zeros, septillion, it's 24 zeros.
Yes, you can imagine.
That's incredible. Did I get that right? Is that 6 zeros? Anyways, thank you everybody for joining us here on Daily with Doc. And if we could get the co-hosts up on the screen with us, that would be absolutely fantastic. We had lots of hands up. We had lots of questions coming in. If we did not get to your question and you would like to get an answer today, call the call team at 855-949-3377. We have been trained using Dr. Wallach's recommendations, Pharmacist Ben's recommendations to help you find solutions to what may be going on in the body through nutritional solutions. So thank you so much, Pharmacist Ben. We've got so many questions. One of the comments that came in says, makes wisdom usable. And also, Ben, stay the course. Your intuitive nature is tracking perfectly.
Oh,
so
thank you. I appreciate that.
We love it. Absolutely love it.
Thank you. And thank Rod. I forgot to mention Rod. Thank you, Rod.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome. And
bye, everybody.
Thank you so much, Pharmacist Ben. Today we had on with us as a co-host team. We have Albert joining us from South Africa. So yes, we have 24/7 around the clock phone, what would it be? Service. It's not service, but we have somebody there to answer your questions. And we are mostly for those who are not working for somebody already. So if you are working with somebody or somebody referred you to this program, get back with them. They are your primary point of contact. Thank you so much, Albert. And we have Marilyn joining us, and I'm going to do Marilyn and Phyllis together because they are both absolutely fantastic, very active in the chat. So if you're live with us, you are seeing in the chat the works of these two brilliant ladies and their typing skills. If you're not here with us, you're missing out. So make sure that you join us Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific time. So thank you to both Marilyn and Phyllis. And Phyllis is also bringing in questions from the different platforms. And Ruth Ellen, my executive production manager, who has filled in for me and the times that I have not been able to be here. So I just want to do a special shout out and thank you, Ruth Ellen, for all that you do, because not only is she getting the stream pushed out with the graphics to the different platforms, she was also doing the interviewing, and I know how fun that can be. So thank you so much, Ruth Ellen. And we have Rod out on the different platforms and keeping up the chatter. Thank you so much, Rod, keeping an eye on things as well. And also we have AJ, who's out bringing in those questions, making sure that everything is running smoothly as far as the stream goes, and also making sure we're getting out where you are watching. So folks, join us next time, Daily with Doc. You go to the website, sign up for our newsletter. That's dailywithdoc.com. And if you're not already working with somebody, there is a store there that has all the products that we mentioned today available to help you work on helping yourself create a better health journey. My name is Becca Dukes, as the Director of Student Services for the Institute of Holistic Health, a certified naturopathic practitioner and a certified holistic health coach, and the host of this program. It is my honor and privilege that you took the time invested in yourself to join us today. take the next step, put it into action, and help your community as well. Discover how you can become a certified holistic health coach, or even just a longevity associate and distributor in helping your community. Get back with the person to share this program with you. And if there is no one to thank, give us a call at 855-949-3377. Bye for now. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have the founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr.